Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum. This is a fan submission from Sparty, and in this game, Sparty will be playing Elite Specialist against Aggo is Unintelligent, playing as Quick Supply Specialist. Sparty is starting with the Sledgehammers Marksman, and he is against Sledgehammers and Fans. So right off the bat, the red player does have a lot more chaff, allowing the tanks to essentially shoot at the carry units for quite a bit of time. But as soon as the chaff clears, the blue player, Sparty, will have a distinct advantage because of the additional marksman against the sledgehammers. So if I were Sparty, my number one priority would be to do chaff clear. I think instead of adding more chaff, I think chaff clear might even be a better suggestion, because once you clear up the chaff, you can win this tanks or the sledgehammer war no problem. From red player's point of view, I think by keeping his units as busy as they possibly can, either by adding more chaff or just simply, in this case, adding a bit of damage, so it's doing additional damage before the opposing army destroys the chaff. Now, unfortunately, Sparty is elite, and as you can see, blue crawlers are pretty effective in the early rounds. Sure, there's still a lot of chaff left, but I think the blue crawlers alone are probably going to carry this game for them. Oh, let's see. Yep. The tower is about to go down. The blue crawlers actually finished the sledgehammers on their own. So yeah, that's a first round win that goes to Sparty. But remember, the result of round one doesn't matter. In fact, the result of round two doesn't matter really. Round three is when things start to really count. All right, deployment module is pretty useful. Fortified Hacker is interesting because of these sledgehammers. All right. It looks like Sparty decided to take the improved melting point, setting the board up for a late game, while Aggo decided to skip and adding even more chaff. All right. When you're up against the elite specialist, it's very easy to fall into this trap of thinking that whatever unit that you had that was supposed to deal with chaff effectively will continue to deal with chaff effectively. Unfortunately, sledgehammers are pretty bad against level 2 crawlers. For one, the sledgehammers does not one-shot the crawlers. Sledgehammer only does 668 damage up against the crawler's 706 health. So for a unit that only shoots once every 4.5 seconds, you're going to take forever to clear out these crawlers. And here's what happens when you don't clear out blue crawlers, because they're going to get into your face, and they do a considerable amount of damage. Okay. Now with this round, the red player is getting an advantage simply because of his two sets of crawlers delaying these blue player's crawlers for a significant amount of time. But it's still a lot closer than it should. I actually wouldn't mind some blue sledgehammers. They are expensive, but twice the stats, half the price. I think as an elite specialist, you have to be very careful, or even more careful, with your chaff deployment, simply because they're so costly. And also as an elite specialist, you can have the freedom to start deploying carry units, because your units will always be twice as strong than your opponents. And surprisingly, it looks like the blue player Sparty is going to take round 2. Round 3. Sandworm is offered. Very interesting. Air units is also interesting, but I figure if you're going to go with air units, You're probably going to go with the Phoenix because Phoenix does kill Wraith fairly well. Phoenix also deals with Typhoon fairly well. All right, so Sparty took the Wraith and Aggo took the Typhoon. The Wraith was interesting, but also a bit of a risky choice because if Aggo took the Phoenixes, then it would deny this Wraith pretty hard. I think the reason that he didn't take Phoenixes is because of these marksmen that's already on the ground, but I don't believe these marksmen will get a chance to shoot at the Phoenixes simply because of this huge line of units and chaff, providing a lot of defense for those units. Typhoon is good here because it's another layer of chaff clear. Considering these crawlers are already level to level 3, level 2 crawler on the left hand side, I think Aggo really needed a bit of additional chaff support, or chaff clear support rather. 2 squads of tank got leveled in the middle, and they're absolutely destroying Sparty's tanks in the middle as well. Left side has fallen for blue, and then the right side, well, this Wraith is doing quite a lot, but it is up against one Typhoon, one squad of Typhoon. Hopefully this marksman is going to shut that Typhoon down fairly quickly, but remember Typhoon at level 2 do have 20,000 health, so they're very tanky. They're almost half of a fortress. Well, fortress is at around, I think it's 48 without level upgrades, so it's almost half of a fortress, so pretty darn strong. Round 3 goes to our red player. Let's see how Sparty responds. Nano is picked for Aggo. Either he's going to go giant or he's going to put on one of his high-level sledgehammers. And the answer is sledgehammers. All right. Nano is also picked by Sparty. And that goes on a Wraith. And this Wraith at this point, without any additional unit to support, should be unkillable. Right now for Sparty's board, there is a big problem because there's nothing really on the ground to stop the advance of 4 squads of level 2 and 3 sledgehammers. And because he's going Wraith, that can be hard countered pretty easily with just a few packs of Phoenixes or even a melting point. All right, let's see what will happen on the ground. Now these Wraith are excellent chaff clear, which means that these chaff on the side are going to get shut down pretty quickly. However, the chaff in the middle, with the help of these high-level sledgehammers, are breaking through. I'm going to speed this one up because I don't think there's anything on the red side that can actually kill this level 2 Wraith with Nano. Maybe with a tower debuff. Okay, yeah, with the tower debuff. And that 50% additional damage, is it finally able to bring it down? Deployment spec was picked for red for this round. An extended range Vulcan. Now that is a game changer. Extended range Vulcan with Scorching Flames and with level 2 obviously can definitely deal with these sledgehammers even if they have heal. I think red is seeing the Vulcan switch, or perhaps he's just wanting to set up that board. But either way, he is very intelligently putting down a melting point with range. These Vulcans are currently unleveled, which means they cannot actually kill the tanks very quickly, let alone this melting point. So it will have to rely on his other units to tank for him while he's doing damage from behind the defensive formation of his chaff lines. Alright, the blue crawlers in the center are being taken care of. However, I don't know if he has enough to deal with this melting point. And I think this melting point might just pick up everything here and move on to the other side of the board. Okay, so this Vulcan is doing okay and it's getting through. Unfortunately, it's walking over in the wrong direction. It could have moved up to the tower. Alright, let's speed this up. We're going to get debuffed. We're going to burn these tanks a little bit. Actually, it's doing quite well against these tanks. And it's causing them to refocus. Alright, who's going to get a tower? Red is going to get the tower and, of course, finishing the game with the melting point. And round 5 goes to red. Now with the Vulcans, they do scale in a pretty terrifying way. Sandworm gets picked, presumably to deal with the melting point with the help of the Vulcan. I wonder if he has Ignite running on this Vulcan. He does have Ignite running, so these Vulcans can be holy crap, triple tech Vulcan. My god. So he sold the Sandworm. He got triple tech Vulcan. All he's missing is an absorption item. Because these Vulcans with the absorption item are just going to kill everything. This one right here is dealing 500 damage every 0.1 second. So that's 5,000 damage per second. And when aimed at this group of sledgehammers, it'll probably kill it in 4 seconds. And this is the big tank with level 4 and also with the item. For all the other tanks, within 4 seconds, and they're gone. Now, they do take a bit longer to deal with the melting point, but because it has Ignite, not only will it deal absolute damage with the Scorching Flame, it will also do percentage damage, 6% every 2 seconds. So let's see how quickly these Vulcans can bring down the Vulcans, melting points. Well, let's first test it on the Sandworm. Look at that. The Sandworm is just getting burned alive. Wow. All right, turning his damage over to these tanks. 1, 2, 3. Well, should have kept on that tank. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 seconds to kill a Typhoon. Back to the tank. This Vulcan here is winning the war against the melting point. And this one just absolutely straight walk up the melting point and just absolutely destroyed it with sheer firepower. And now they're going to get to level 3. Fire control gets offered. And that fire control is going to go straight to this Vulcan. Now dealing 1,000 damage every 0.1 second. This is a terrifying upscale for the blues board. Now with red, there's a couple things it can do. Electromag is excellent against something like this. These are triple tech Vulcans. Majority of his power comes from the technology, so if you can shut the technology down, you can shut these Vulcans down. You already have melting points, so he can go electro barrage. He can also go with some sort of air chaff right now, as blue does not have a lot of anti-air. He has a few marksmen and a few sets of fans, so getting some air units might be pretty good as well. Tanks, medium-sized units at this point, it's just it's slightly weak. Armor, interesting, but when your Vulcan does 1,000 damage and you're tanking 180 damage, it's still good. It's better than nothing, but it's not enough. The Sandworm here, I don't know. Wow, he got armor on the Sandworm as well. So he got armor on the Sandworm and armor on the Sledgehammers, but no Electromag. I think that's a huge mistake because no amount of armor is going to help you against extended range Vulcan with an item. That's just the fact of life. You cannot out-armor extended range Vulcan. And what you need to do is to actually shut the Vulcan down so he's not getting the technologies to kill all of your army. Look at this Sandworm, even with armor. And now it's getting locked on by the melting point, but even with armor, this one is taking down this Sandworm under the constant fire of this level 2 melting point. This level 3 Vulcan doesn't even care. He just walks over. Melting point? What melting point? I'm the melting point. Alright, getting debuffed. Taking on the sledgehammers, taking on more sledgehammers. Under 4 seconds, Typhoon just disappeared. And very unlucky debuff. So we're going to walk into the range. I think this Vulcan actually outranges the melting point by about 15 meters, allowing him to kill it no questions asked. Okay, so now this Vulcan is gonna get to level 4 with an item. Oof, I don't even know what's a good option here. Yeah, I was gonna say Rhino. Rhino maybe with Photon might be pretty good. Except he doesn't run Photon, so I wonder if he's gonna get armor again. Probably not. Gonna sell one of, nope, just gonna put them on a flank, knowing that on Sparty's side he's primarily focusing on chaff and he does not have a lot of higher damage units. Well, he is forgetting these level 3 or soon to be level 4 marksmen, so they can do quite a number on this Rhino. Looking at the Aggro's board, additional melting point will certainly help. And finally, Electro, that's going to shut down the technology. I wonder if it's going to be too little too late with these level 4 Vulcans. We'll see. Because this guy is going to kill these melting points so fast. This is a level 1 melting point, 40,000 health. This one is doing 14,000 per every second, and that is about 4 seconds to kill that melting point once this Vulcan gets locked on. It does not require a charge up, it's just a straight up 4-second countdown once it's locked down, and dead melting point. Level 2 doesn't matter, under 10 seconds, that melting point is gone. Alright, Electromag just missing this Vulcan by a hair. On the other side, this Vulcan is getting shielded. Yeah, nothing from the Red's board is getting even close to this melting point. And that's a really big problem because when nothing is getting close, nothing is killing the chaff. And I don't think the Rhino was a good idea either because Rhino actually delayed the advancement of Blue's chaff. So right now it's just melting point against chaff, and we all know how that usually ends. Alright, so what's the lesson here? The lesson here is that if you play Elite Specialist and you got extended range Vulcan, take it. Level 2 Vulcan, these are so strong. I honestly don't have an answer for this board. I think if Electromag were picked earlier, and if Range were picked earlier, maybe for some of these units so that it can provide even better chaff clear sooner, then it might have a chance. Going air is another option, right? Maybe ranged Wraith to help with a bit of a chaff clear, because that forces Blue to go into anti-air marksman, or in this case, he's just going with Electromag marksman. I think the Electromag marksman is a fail-safe unit. What it does is it prevents Electromag from these melters at later games. Right now, these Vulcans are so strong that it will take a one-on-one fight with any of these melters any day, no problem. And Blue is also playing the strategy perfectly because he understands that these Vulcans will eventually just outscale into these monsters that is both good at dealing giants as well as chaff clear. So all he really needs to do is to provide enough distraction on his side so that nothing can get to these Vulcans. And I don't agree with the Rhino. I don't think the Rhino achieved much. This one did 0 damage, and so did this one. Yeah, they're just there to give levels to the Mustangs and delaying the chaff here, which means these melting point will have to kill the very late arriving chaff. So that was definitely a misplay by having those Rhinos there. I would totally sell them, get some Wraith, right? Get more chaff clear up front, and hope. That's the word here. Hope you have your melting point locking on to one of the Vulcans. Yeah, this is going to be an absolute slaughter, I think. All this late arriving chaff is just coming. Actually, surprisingly, on this side, the Vulcan ignited the fire, therefore killing the chaff. Let's see how this Vulcan does against this big shield. Ooh, you know what? This side, they actually killed the Vulcan, so not too bad. And here comes the Electromag with 3 Vulcans aiming at it. Wow, you know what? I spoke way too soon. Red actually got this game with a clever use of oil as well as positioning with the melting point. Okay. You almost got Sparty. 56 HP left. Can Sparty bring this game back? Now, if you were Sparty, what would you do? You have 2 monster Vulcans. This one is going to be level 5, so that's going to be doing 2,000 damage every 0.1 second. So 20,000 damage every second. It takes just over 2 seconds to destroy a melting point. Okay, what would you do if you're Sparty? Would that going to be more chaff? Or is that going to be something else? Well, looking at this board, it seems like there's 0 anti-air coming from Aggo's side. So I would say the best way is probably just drop 3 squads of Wasp, give them shield, and just let them fly up and distract every single one of this melting point. Let's see if I'm right. All right, first, we got some cards. Nuke. Very viable card. Sparty picked up Nuke. Shield, Device Specialist, also pretty good. Enhancement Module, I think it's a bit late for Enhancement Module. I'm not sure, unless he's planning on selling stuff. I don't know if there's anything he could sell at this point. He pretty much needs every single unit. He added the Typhoons. I think that's a great option because right now, if Sparty is going to go with 3 squads of Wasp, those Typhoons are going to clear them up, and that's going to allow these melting points to do exactly what they need to do. So excellent choice of units, preventing that 1 deadly threat. All right, Nuke is being added here. I wonder if this Vulcan is actually going to destroy these 2 shields before the Nuke lands. Let's see. All right, temp range. 2 attack enhancement. Jesus Christ, this is, wow, that is something. All right, so Vulcan getting up there, Rhino getting destroyed. Vulcan is burning one of the shield. I don't think it has enough damage. Oh, it's got one of them, but fortunately that melting point is shielded by the Typhoon shield. So absolute clutch shield from these Typhoons. Looking at the other side, this Vulcan is still shielded, which is great. We still have late arriving Fangs, which is great. Let's see if these Typhoons can actually clear some of these units before the Vulcan gets to them. All right, the Vulcan gets locked on. Actually, the shield gets locked on. Ooh, look how quickly this melting point is going to fall. My God, this melting point might actually fall to this marksman here. All right, the right hand side is completely falling. However, if it's just melting point up against a Vulcan, the melting point will lose. These melting point have 170 range. This Vulcan also have 170 range. So it really comes down to the tower. If he can get a good tower timing, he might win. But if he's wasting a lot of time on these missiles, he's probably not going to do too well. Oh no, it's wasting time. And they're going to both lock on at the same time. But unlike the Vulcan, the melting point requires a charge up. And that is the end of this game. Super clutch game. Super crazy unit build. I hope you enjoyed this game, and I hope to see you on the next one.